Hey folks, you're watching Connor, and this is episode 3, part 1 in the weekly fitness vlog. What are you going to see in this episode? In this episode, we're going to be talking about how to handle it when life gets in the way of your fitness goals and what to do when you don't have the weigh in that you want and how to correct that moving forward. You ready? Let's go. Starting things off as usual with the weigh-in, so we're going to throw back now to the weigh-in that I recorded earlier on. Week 3 weigh-in. Okay, so 11.3.2. So we'll record that in the book. So 11.3. Right, so that's down 0.8 pounds. 1.8 pounds. Now, you might be thinking, isn't that a little bit more than usual? If you've seen the other videos, and yes, it is. Now, obviously, I was aiming for half a pound a week. So 1.8 pounds kind of comes out of the blue, at least as a viewer, to kind of look at that. You might be wondering why. Well, first of all, is it a good thing? No, it's not, right? I understand that obviously I'm trying to lose weight, but realistically I'm not actually trying to lose weight per se, I'm trying to lose fat. So if I do that quickly, then I'm also going to lose muscle too. So I'm trying to do it in a nice, slow and gradual process. Losing a pound or 1.8 pounds is too much, right? Like over the course of the month, I would have liked to have lost, say, 2 pounds, you know, about half a pound a week. And I would have been okay with maybe 3 pounds slightly over, and that's fine. But 2 pounds or nearly 2 pounds in a week is not okay. So the question is, why did that happen? It's not random, right? It's not like a sometimes a weigh-in just kind of goes weird, and it's not necessarily anything to do with your diet. You remember, you just carrying more or less water weight that day. This one was, I guess, by design, right? Like there's a reason for it. So the reason for it being, once every couple of months or so, I like to have what I call a write-off day. Now, a write-off day is essentially a day where I don't track anything, right? I'll still do my training as normal, and I never compromise on that. But I don't track my diet, and now I kind of want to talk to you about what happens when you don't track your diet when you normally do. I should probably start by talking about what the write-off day actually looked like and why it happens, right? So the write-off day was because one of my close friends was having an engagement party. So what the day actually looked like was, rather than me sticking to my regular diet, I went to the cinema to see Avengers Age of Ultron, which, no spoilers, is fucking awesome, and you should go see it if you haven't, and if you haven't, then you probably live under a rock, and no offense, but seriously, sort your life out and go see that movie. But yeah, like, you know, went to see that, stuffed my face, big Fanta Orange, hot nuts, nachos, the works. It's good to do every now and again, right? Then later on that night, I drank a lot of alcohol, as you can imagine. It's an engagement party, and I had like 2 or 3 cigarettes. So then the question is, do I smoke? No, right? Not actively anyway. There's been periods in my life where I have smoked, and periods in my life where I'd be on an e-cigarette. But no, I mean, I don't regularly smoke. It was like, you know, I went out and had like 2 or 3 cigarettes that night. It was just like, right, this is my write-off day. I'll do whatever I want within reason, right? And that's it, right? So in the interest of full disclosure, that's what happened in the write-off day. Now, I'm 26 now, and that comes with it a little bit more hindsight than you would have when you're younger, right? Some of you watching this will be far older than 26, and you'll be like, oh, really, you think you have hindsight? And you know, some of you watching younger may not fully understand the practical element of that, but I guess now I'm at a point where I've been through the keeping it perfect mindset. I did that when I was like 21, where it was just like, you know, I had to have the perfect diet, the perfect training, the perfect sleep, and everything had to just be flawless. And it made me miserable, and it made it really unsustainable. I made it really difficult for me to hold other areas of my life together. And in fact, that's what actually stopped me bodybuilding at that time, was the fact that like it was a financial drain, because I was just, you know, bulking was just such a nightmare at that point, because I didn't know then what I know now, and put strain on my relationship at the time. Made me not motivated to go to work, because I was afraid of like missing times where I needed to get my calories in and stuff like that. Like I was taking it to a really ridiculous level. No, I don't, right? I have a write-off day every couple of months where I can just do whatever I want. Apart from that, I do stick to my diet every day. There isn't any deviations. You know, I'm quite consistent with it. Aside from that, I don't miss training sessions. Occasionally I've missed maybe like one or two in the last year or something like that. But I mean, my training sessions aren't really that hard, so it's pretty easy to not miss them, right? So in order to schedule a write-off day, like how do we relate this to you, right? So in order to schedule a write-off day, the first thing we need to talk about is you need to actually earn it, right? Like a lot of you are having 4 to 5 write-off days a week before you've even started, and that's obviously a problem, right? That's going to lead to issues. But I mean, if you've been, you know, sticking to your diet and you've been sticking to your training and it's all going well, then, you know, maybe 3 months into it or something, you can schedule a day where you just kind of relax, do whatever you want, eat whatever the hell you want, and it can be good to let off steam. Now, understand that you're going to take a short-term hit, right? You will take a short-term hit. When you have a write-off day, it's going to affect your weigh-in for that week. Now, in the long term, I feel it benefits you as long as you don't take the piss with it, because it helps you stay motivated long term. Because sometimes it's good to just go out and get blitz every now and again, because, and I say every now and again, right, because some of you are going to be doing this 4 times a week. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking about the people that are like, you know, trying to maintain everything perfectly for like 3 years in a row. Like you break down, it kills your motivation. So in a weird way, sometimes it can be good to go out and fuck up your body and drink a bunch of alcohol, because then you get hungover and then you're like, okay, I'm really motivated to go back now and not do that. Like I don't want to poison myself again. So yeah, in a weird way, it kind of helps to let loose and keep you motivated in the long term. But you will take a short-term hit. So what will that short-term hit actually look like? Well, it depends on you, right? My short-term hit and your short-term hit may be very different. So you'd think, you know, okay, the guy goes and stuffs his face in a cinema and goes and drinks a bunch of alcohol. Surely he's going to gain weight, and yet I lose more weight than usual. Why is that? Well, it's because typically when people have a write-off day, what it means is they go back to doing what they would normally do anyway, right? So it's not necessarily that a write-off day always means you're going to gain weight. It's a write-off day probably just means you would do what you would do if you weren't training and dieting. So for me, if I don't train and diet, as you've seen from the transformation photos, I get pretty light, right? So when I have a write-off day, I usually lose weight. Whereas someone who is typically on the heavier side, when you have a write-off day, you're probably going to gain weight, right? Because that's what you naturally do. When you're left to your own devices, if you're usually heavy, then it's probably because you overeat often when you're left to your own devices, when you're not thinking about it. I, on the other hand, when I'm left to my own devices, I eat very little, so I'm more likely to lose weight. So it depends on you, right? It depends what your baseline is and what your personality is like and what your relationship's like with food. In terms of whether or not I advocate those things, I mean, if you don't ever smoke, then I definitely don't recommend smoking, because it can be pretty hard to kick at times, right? But I don't know. That's a difficult one. That's something I'm experimenting with myself, to be honest. The whole, like, you know, going out and having 1 or 2 every 6 months or something like that, 3 months, whatever, you know, kind of thing that I'm working at that time. It's something I'm experimenting with. I don't really know if I'll continue to do that or not. We'll see how it goes. But certainly with the drinking, it can be good to go out and have a laugh with your friends all the time and not take things so seriously. As I talk about, I'm not a professional bodybuilder. It is not my goal to compete on stage. I do not have a time frame in which I have to get in shape. So to be honest, like I've did the whole like build your life around this stuff, and it didn't make me happy. And I want to kind of, I want this whole training and dieting thing to add to my life. I don't want it to take away. And that's not to take away from people who do competitive bodybuilding, right? Because they understand the pros and cons, right? Like, they get it. They know they're going to give up their social life, and they know they're going to give up a lot of, you know, potential career things because they want to compete, and that's fine. That, like, if that's what you want to do, because they're then going to get the potential reward of competing, so that's fine. But it's not a personal interest for me. So my goal is to just be continually moving forward in the right direction with my physique and being happy, right? You know, happiness is a funny term because it's not, without getting into too much detail, happiness is an emotion. It's not something you can be permanent with, but you know, I'm pushing for fulfillment, is probably a better word, right? Like, trying to be fulfilled. And I find that when I kind of keep things like 80% perfect, I am more fulfilled than when I keep things 100% perfect, because 100% perfect comes with a lot more sacrifices and a lot more downsides than 80% perfect. So when deciding to have a write-off day, take those factors in mind. Like, are you having a write-off day all the time, in which case you should probably cut them back? Or have you been doing everything perfect and regimented for the past 6 months to a year, in which case it might be time to blow off some steam. Now that we've seen the effects that the write-off day has had, it's a good opportunity to kind of show you what I do when I fuck up, right, or when I make a mistake. It's not necessarily a fuck up, right? You know, I knew it was coming and I knew it was going to have that effect on my diet, but it's good to kind of show you, okay, well, how does he handle this, right? Like, how does he handle it when, you know, some real life stuff gets in the way and then it kind of blocks it, right? Well, as we kind of talked about, I wanted to lose sort of 2 to 3 pounds over the course of the month. Little dog in the background there. I wanted to kind of lose about half a pound a week. So given that I just lost like 1.8 pounds in a week, for this next week, I'm not going to make drastic changes to the diet based off 1 week's weigh-ins. That's just really silly. So I'm going to keep it 2100 as normal. The only difference I'm going to make is I'm going to schedule a refeed day where I'm going to get pretty high calories in that day, right? So what am I going to do? Probably going to go out and eat a big pizza, which is going to be like 1,000 calories or something, which seems like a lot, but if you spread that 1,000 calories out over the course of a week, you know, it's not really that much, right? It's under 200. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have a little refeed. What do I expect to happen? I expect maybe I'll either lose half a pound again, or maybe I'll just be slightly under that. Maybe I'll stay the same weight. Maybe I'll be somewhere between staying the same weight and half a pound, something like that. That's what I'm kind of going for, just to kind of tailor off the weight loss a wee bit so it's not too much. And then yeah, we'll see how that weighing goes, and we will go for there. I hope you've taken something from this video that you can use to help you in your own personal fitness journey. As always, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I want to help you as best as I can. And just a last little note, I want to thank those who have subscribed already. I really hope that the content is benefiting you. Until next time, I've been Connor. Take care, and I'll see you for part 2.